Greetings and welcome, everybody, to Poly Weekly News. I'm your host, David Danto, and today, even though it's a bank holiday in the U.S., I'm going to be chatting with the head of EMEA for Poly, my friend Paul Clark. Paul, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
David, it's great to be here. It's fantastic to catch up with you again. So thanks for the invite.
Oh, I love having you here, and I love doing shows that aren't just U.S. centric. We want to make sure that everybody understands that Poly is a global company, and we're doing things around the world. So if for someone who might not know you, which is odd because you've been a celebrity in the AV and the collaboration circles for years, tell the layperson what you do at Poly. What's your role?
So I run Poly within EMEA, and I have a long heritage here. I've actually been in Poly for, wait for it, 28 years. So the industry has changed a lot in that time, and I've been a part of that, which has been fantastic. But of course, no time is as exciting as we are going through now. Huge change, huge opportunity. So it's a really exciting place to be.
It's amazing. Grandmothers and small children around the world now know what we do for a living. It's a major change to our careers.
Yeah, exactly.
So before you were Legacy Polycom, correct?
I was actually Legacy
You were
Plantronics.
Legacy Plantronics. Okay,
Mhm,
I got
mhm.
that wrong. What brought you here? What's your background that came to Plantronics?
So I've got a technology background. I used to be a designer way back when, and after a number of years of doing that, I moved into the commercial space, and I was a technical marketeer for Hitachi in the semiconductor industry. You know, one of the industries that gets a lot of focus at the moment, and I really enjoyed what I was doing. And I could see this small industry as it was back then. It was a headset industry. Really was focused on contact centers, operators, but had been doing some really exciting stuff, including, for example, supplying the headsets for all the Apollo space missions. One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. For Neil Armstrong, they'd supplied the headsets for that and all the missions. And I thought, that's a great company. I think I could bring something to that company. So I switched and I joined Plantronics. I thought it was going to be for 2 years. 28 years later, we're still having fun.
Yeah, so you got 2 more years. You have a big 3-0 anniversary. That's awesome.
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
the
exactly.
interesting thing is, the headsets that we were dealing with at those times were completely surrounded around everything that's going on right now. At that time, we called it smarter working. That was the
Hmm.
term that was used for it. Now we're kind of calling it hybrid working, but it's the same thing. It's the idea that work is what you do, not where you go. And I'm sure that's now finally, I hate that a horrific pandemic had to cause it to happen, but people have finally realized now that that's true.
Yeah, what's really amazing is I used to have to go and visit clients and talk to what a headset could do for you. I used to have to explain to them about, how it is that people work, and sometimes the work isn't sitting at your desk, a single desk. It is in multiple locations in an office. It may not even be in the office. You may be out and about. Oh, by the way, when you're doing that, you want to collaborate. And I referenced a lot. A thing, a phrase I coined was dispersed collaboration. So collaboration itself not being new, but not being in the same location was kind of felt odd to people. Now we're all experienced as dispersed collaborators. In fact, we don't even call it dispersed collaboration. We think of ourselves as hybrid workers, and it's really interesting change and interesting dynamic. So I no longer have to sell the benefits of headset. People understand that what my job is it's actually making sure they get the best one for whatever it is they're trying to achieve.
Right, and that's a very important point that's come up at a number of trade shows and a number of these webcasts is that there is no one best headset because it's completely based on personas and circumstances. What might be
Right.
best for you might not be best for me, and that's a very difficult thing for widget buyers to understand. It has to really come from the user experience outward.
Yes, it's what I call society is made up of variety, and essentially that's that's what it is. Now we're all unique in our own special way. Now we have similarities, which is where your comment about personas comes up, because it may well be that clusters of people are doing similar things, and then that type of work task can be supported with a type of product. But for sure, it's really worth organizations getting into who is it actually works for me? What is it they're trying to do? And how can I help them as an employer? And the great thing is in Poly, we make a range of different products that will help you, whether it's personal communications, whether it's group communications, we've got the device for you.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk a little bit more regionally at this point because I do want
Mhm.
to appeal a little bit and learn a little bit more about your purview and some of the things that are going on. I know late last year we had just recently opened up our new experience center in the Gherkin of all
Yeah.
buildings. A beautiful building, or some might say an ugly building. It depends who you speak to in the UK. But it is a gorgeous site, and that's given you an opportunity to, especially as the pandemic starts to wane, to show customers and potential customers what some of these products actually look like and feel like, and put them in your hands again and touch them. How has that site worked out? Is it turned out okay? Is it useful?
Been fantastic. I chose that site. Our office space was coming up for renewal 2.5 years ago, and actually the Gherkin is iconic in not just in London but in the United Kingdom, and so to be able to get space in there and on the 32nd floor, so we have quite a nice view from there, was amazing. But that's not the real beauty of it, beautiful as it is. The real beauty is we were able to bring customers in and demonstrate the Poly range of products. And I did talk about personal, I talked about group. We've been doing that since, as you mentioned, it was last October. We've had more than 400 customers,
Wow.
partners. We host user groups there. And what's fantastic about the space is, yeah, the view is lovely, and people are always blown away when they get inside the building. But what we show inside that building is the range of environments that people find themselves in. It can be a home environment, it can be a work environment in an office, it can be a work environment in a third space, like a coffee shop or whatever. We have it all modeled out. People can come and then see, for those different type of environments, what experience can I look for? What experience, if I'm an employer, can I give my employees so that they can be productive? And it's incredible, because often we'll have people coming into the building, and they may be thinking about a particular headset they want to know more about, or a new video device that we've launched, and they want to see how that works with their ecosystem partner that they've chosen. But they very, very rarely don't go away with their mind having been expanded to the possibilities. Yes, there's challenges that they have to address, but there's a route plan to be able to get through those challenges. And we have solutions that will actually help their associates, their employees, actually have a great experience in their daily work. So it's fantastic. The reviews are wonderful when people come into that
Oh,
also.
that's great to hear.
Yeah,
And I know I've
yeah.
spoken to customers who've come into some of the other experience centers that we have around the world, and there's nothing you can read about what we and what other manufacturers talk about their products and the great features, but when you put them side by side and actually listen, I remember one story around the Poly Studio, the original USB bar that we have still right now, that somebody actually listened to the sound coming from it compared to the competitors, and it was literally no contest. So the ability
Absolutely.
to hear and see and feel and touch, because we're a very tactile community, at least here in the U.S., and I assume it's the same in EMEA, where people they can get a sense of what's going on, but unless they actually see it and touch it and feel it, it doesn't really get completely absorbed.
No, it's really about the obviously it's technology, but it's how does the experience leave you feeling? And that's what you get when you come to the experience center. You actually have an experience, and you can put yourself in the shoes of the rest of your organization. If you use this equipment in this particular way, these are the things you're going to be able to get out of it. And that experience is pretty awesome. So I say we very often have people come to see one or two specific items, but going with a mind expanded on the art of actually what's possible. So it's great. It's been really successful. Yeah.
So I want to hear from you what you're hearing from some of those customers, but before we and partners. But before we go there, if there's somebody who's watching this who's in the UK area or will be in the UK area and wants to come to the Experience Center, what should they do? Who should they reach out to, or what process should they follow?
So it's very, very easy. If you have a existing a partner who supplies your technology equipment, you can reach out to them. They can get in touch with Polly and set up a visit for you. Alternatively, you can go to our website and there's a contact us. You can contact us there. We'll get back to you, and we can arrange that you can come and experience it. If that doesn't work for you in the Experience Centre in London, we have lots of experience centres around Europe, in fact, around the world. We can make sure you can get to experience some of the things I've just been talking about.
Okay, that's great. Reach out to your
Mhm.
partner, or look at the poly.com website as a first
Absolutely.
shot. Okay, that's great.
Absolutely.
So you've been speaking to, you just said 400 visitors at that site, plus I'm sure thousands more over the course of, this
Yeah.
pandemic. And, only this year I've been at like 3 or 4 trade shows, including a couple I've seen you at, and we've been talking to customers there. I would say, from my experience globally, it looks like about 80% of end users have accepted this idea that that hybrid working is here to stay. And that it's a completely different future than it was in the past. The problem is that when you speak to them and try and drill down into what that is, I've found that no two actually agree. And Tim Banting, who's a wonderful analyst from Omdia in the UK, has called this, we've moved from the great resignation to the great experimentation. Companies are trying, they're trying to figure it out. That's certainly what I've experienced. There's a lot of interesting press on Apple here in the US about how they wanted everybody to return to the office 3 days a week, and then the executives who required that left the company, and now they've put it again, and now there's a team of employees trying to protest that, and it's an interesting saga. What's the culture like? What are the feelings like around that idea of hybrid working in your area?
So what's really interesting as a foundation to all of this is hybrid isn't the future, hybrid is now. Okay. And somewhere in that hybrid model is the office. Because hybrid without the office is remote working. Okay. And most companies don't want fully remote organizations. There are some that are like that, but most companies don't want that. So I think it's pretty important to say. The other thing that's also very interesting is employees, they also want to go back to the office. When you speak to employees, and we did this through some research last year, what we find is that working from home is great. There's lots of benefits that you get from it. We can talk about those, but let's talk about what do you miss when you go to the office. What they told us they missed was camaraderie. What they missed was banter, chatter with colleagues. What they missed was lunch. So there's a very human element to being in the office. That's not really a reason to go in. What we also found in the research we did was what people actually want is they want to go back to the office to have better collaboration. They want to meet people face to face because there's things that aren't fully replicated from that dispersed collaboration. They want to be in the office because it might be that the specific meetings that they want to attend. They might be IT that they want to get access to. So the good news for employers is when we talk about hybrid, and as I was saying, hey, it's got to include return to the office, that employees do actually want to go back to the office, but they want to have a choice. So it's almost like we've all tasted sweeter meats. We've tasted freedom of choice. So don't take away the freedom of choice, but recognize that we do need to get people back into the office. And companies are challenged with that. If I was to zip back a year ago, I could tell you about what was going to happen. People returning to the office, number of days a week they would be in. And the reality is actually a little bit different. It's not people aren't going back to the office, not going back as often as we were thinking about. And there's reasons for that. In the employee's mind, the reasons of, hey, do you know what? I've got good work-life balance when I work from home. I've got a commute. That's actually a bit of a waste of time. Oh, it's pretty expensive as well. I've got to buy lunch. There's distraction in the office. There's lots of things, but productivity isn't good. So the challenge to organizations, and I do say this to companies when I meet with them, is you have to earn the commute of your employees. You have to justify for them to come in, and it's not to come in and sit at a desk and do something they could do at home. It's got to be much more than that. The good news is there's a platform for that, as I was saying, about employees actually having some desires to be back in the office, and fundamentally it's about the experience. And this is when I talk to organizations that are successfully bringing people back, what's happening is that they're coming back for the overall experience of being in the office. And I've figured out that actually there's I call them the 3 C's. There's 3 C's that you need to think about when you're designing or evolving into a good hybrid strategy, which includes return to the office. One is culture of your company. What is the culture of your company? Is it designed for this new form of hybrid working, including bringing back? Why would people want to come in? What are you reinforcing when you bring? What are your values? What are the principles of people interaction in your office? Composition. What's the composition of your workforce? Because not everyone is the same. You and I are not the same. And it goes down to things like roles people have, the demographics of your organization. So personas we touched about earlier on, that plays a part. And the other thing is the completeness of the view. So getting people back to the office is not an HR project. It's not an IT project. It's not a facilities project. It's all of them and more. It involves the whole organization. So if you think about, culture, excuse me, if you think about the composition and you think about the completeness of the view, you can build an experience that will have people wanting to go back, not just for, pizza Fridays or drinks on a Wednesday, but because this is something that adds to my overall work week rather than, paying I have to go in because my boss has told me. One of the key things I think that I want to speak to organizations is really key is you cannot mandate return to the office. Return to the office has to have a magnetic appeal. So you want people to be feeling that they want to be in the office rather than feeling they're obliged to be in the office. And it's pretty interesting. I don't actually disagree with the views in Apple that people should be back in the office 3 days a week. It's just what's in it for the people when they do come back. Is that attractive? Have they earned the commute? And if you ask those questions, I think it's pretty interesting. Yeah.
You're absolutely right, and I don't think it's so much the number of days, because I personally feel that formulas always fail. You have to let the knowledge worker have the autonomy to figure it out. But a couple of the phrases that I've heard, I wish I could take credit for them, but I can't. I've overheard them, and I've been hearing people talking about it, and I've been using them. Is this idea that there will never be a return to the office that was before. The office, the way it existed, the design, the layout, the old tools, there are going to be 8 conference rooms on this floor, but only 1 equipped for video and all that. Those offices are dead. No one's returning to them anymore. And the easiest phrase, and we here in the U.S. we like short, quick phrases to remember because we don't have the same memories as most people on the globe do. But I love thinking about it this way: is that home is the new office, and the office is the new offsite. And if you back up and think about that for a second, that's the purpose of going to the office, is to be in rooms working with projects up on bulletin boards and whiteboards and celebrating and going to lunch and doing all these things that we do in a group that we used to do at an offsite, because I'm not going to spend that hour or hour and a half either on the unair conditioned tubes or here on the subways in Manhattan commuting to an office to sit down at a desk and be on a Zoom call or be typing spreadsheets. I'd be going to see and work with my colleagues and have that camaraderie. So it's interesting. I'm guessing what you're saying to me is that this is not just an America's cultural phenomena or an EMEA culture. This is what's going on everywhere now.
Oh, there's more similarity across the world than difference in this topic. We used to look at what do knowledge workers do through a working day, and essentially it was communicate, collaborate, contemplate, or concentrate. And it was one of those 4. And different types of workspace supports each of those tasks to varying degrees, better or worse. Now, nowadays, why would you go to an office for any one of those 4? Incidentally, contemplation was always pretty rubbish in an office, has to be said.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, so you do somewhere else. But why would you go to an office, for example, today, to concentrate or contemplate? You won't. You'll go to collaborate, and that's really that offsite you're talking about. That's really what offsites used to be about. They were collaboration events, and so now if you think about the office as a collaboration space, it's very, very different from the way it used to. It doesn't mean that people won't go in and they won't concentrate, because you'll do multiple things through a day. There's a profile. There's a wonderful example. So Lego. Everyone knows Lego, global brand, headquartered Danish company, headquartered in Denmark, of course. They've just opened a new office, and pretty interesting. They have designed that office around the hybrid working principles, and it's not about having just meeting rooms because everyone goes in just to collaborate. It's about the space is about split up as 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. 1/3 is a traditional desking. You sit there, you do some work, concentrate for yourself, do work tasks, you might chat with somebody sitting beside you. So 1/3 is that space. 1/3 is collaboration spaces, meeting rooms, soft meeting rooms, hard meeting rooms with walls and touchdown spaces. And then the third is public space, is about spontaneity of interaction, is about cultural reinforcement, and that idea of designing a building around those 3 types of spaces for the activity that's going on, and then reinforcing it through their organizational culture is a pretty interesting approach. It's to me, it's the way that businesses have to think about how do you design a modern office. When I look at when the pandemic first hit and as we started to come out of it, what I noticed was, and it was through the technology that we saw, one of the things that you could see was people were using video at home as personal. Now they were going back to the office, and as you rightly said, it was typically like one or two rooms, the executive board rooms were video enabled, and everything else had maybe a speakerphone in the middle of the room. That wasn't acceptable because we were used to video. Why would you go into the office and have a worse experience than being at home? So we could see businesses thinking about enablement within their organizations. And I can see three phases or three types of business response. The first phase was what I'd call the facilitation phase. This was, we're going to open the doors, we've unlocked that front access point. Oh, we need to video enable the rooms. Let's put USB cameras into the office. We have the video bar, the studio USB, world famous now. We sold lots of those because people were just doing that facilitation, just existing spaces, make them video enabled. The next phase I see is enhanced enablement, is recognizing that all meeting rooms aren't the same. They're used for different things, different sizes. And so we would have discussions with clients about which type of products is suitable for which type of environment. So we would have our Studio X range, native, built in, but different room sizes. And so you would see a little bit longer thinking. And then you had what I call the third phase, the enlightenment phase. And the enlightenment phase is pretty interesting because it's where organizations stop and think more broadly about the impact of hybrid and what does that mean for my business. And what's really interesting about that model I was giving you of the 3 C's, that model of the 3 C's I've really developed by looking at those organizations that have thought about enlightenment. How do we facilitate a better working pattern, a better working style? What's the experience we want people to have? And it does go through to what is the culture of our company now we're not all going to be together. So it's pretty interesting that you have that breadth of thinking. What I can see now is in the early days of coming out of pandemic, a significant focus on facilitation, an emphasis on enhanced enablement. Very few people thinking about enlightenment. Is most now are thinking about enhanced enablement or actually enlightenment. How do we build an environment that sets that magnetic attraction for people to want to come back to the office?
That was actually going to be one of my next questions to you. Is in the area that you look at in EMEA specifically, and I know there are many countries with multiple. Sometimes you move to different countries, and you sort of look like you're looking in a time tunnel going back. But just generally, how much penetration does this idea that the realization that these offices need to be retooled for people to come back? Is that most companies? Is that half companies? Is that less than half? How are we doing?
I would say it's dawning on most. It's currently less than half. It really is. The discussion we have with clients, we talked earlier on about coming to our experience center. It still happens that people are trying to fix the problem in front of them, immediately in front of them, rather than the problem that is out to the horizon. And so it is interesting because once we get into the dialogue opens up the discussion significantly into what's your business strategy, what's the culture of your organization, and we then talk about much broader about the problems you're trying to solve for. And this brings out discussions. For example, this brings out discussions about equity of experience. How do you facilitate an equity of experience if I'm at home versus I'm in the office, or if I'm at the office versus at home? And a simple example would be when we have the discussion in organizations, they're usually thinking about, we'll put video in the room, and that's the same for video at home. Well, the video at home, you have your own tile. When you're in a room, and if you're in a video room, if you're in a meeting with video, and there's 3 or 4 of you in there, you've now got a quarter of the tile because there's another 3 people in the room with you. So your presence in the meeting, if it's a hybrid meeting, is lesser than it would be if you were at home. That doesn't reinforce coming into the office. So when we have those discussions, it gets people thinking about I never thought of that. I need to think about how do I enable it. The good news is that the ecosystem vendors, think Zoom, think Microsoft with Teams, they're thinking about this same problem, and they're offering up the ability to, if you're in a room, you can be in a room as a group view, but you can also potentially be in a room as your own view, and the other people in the room with you have their own view as well. So they have their own tiles. You need camera feeds to be able to do that. It's either you're having a multitude of cameras, or with Poly, our latest X70, but the other cameras as well, and the video bars. Sorry, they have technology in them which is called people framing, and that camera can break up a room and feed to those ecosystem partners video that allows them to then give individuals, 3 people sitting in a room, their own tile. So you then up with a new equity of experience. So it's really interesting when you get into the discussion. People very quickly see, yes, I understand the problem, and I also understand the route map to the solution. So thank you for sharing with me.
Yeah, no, it's amazing, and if it's really still just below 50%, what a tremendous opportunity we're going to have over the coming years to really bring people into this reality. I know that when I speak with customers, the idea that rooms that they installed just before the pandemic, the technology that's not even 3 years old, is already tremendously obsolete, because in many cases it doesn't have these features. Features where you walk into the room and you don't need to be a technology expert. You just need to be an expert in your own field. You're a doctor, you're an accountant. You don't have to need to know how to start the meeting or zoom a camera or adjust a tile or mute out noise, because the technology that we're offering now does all of that for you automatically. Oh, and by the way, it's far less expensive than it used to be. It's a really mind-blowing conversation that customers. So it's great that you're starting to see companies realize this and move into this next phase. And I guess it bodes well for the technology we're putting on the market. And right now I'm using one of our P15s, which is the best home camera available on the market, and the quality is just amazing. And I don't have to do anything with it. It adjusts, it focuses, it does everything. We have it's a little sister device, R30 now for the smaller rooms. Making these devices available for organizations so that they can actually experience these new technologies is really a blast. And I'm sure it's something you're looking forward to, for the next few years as well.
It's incredible. Actually, the P15 is so good, I'm using one as well.
Most of the people on my show wind up using the P15, which is an amazing thing. It tells you a lot.
It's incredible. But that goes from you mentioned the R30. It goes from the very smallest of rooms all the way up to the X70 camera, which is getting incredible reviews for the AI that we have inside that product. Group framing, we talked about, people tracking, speaker tracking.
All the things under Director AI.
Director AI, there's so much in it, and it's absolutely about, do you know what, the analogy I use is, when I get into a car, I'm sort of interested in what's going on, but broadly I'm not. I just want it to start and drive. And that's the same with the room. Is there are people who are interested in technology. Most people just want it to work when they go in, and they don't want that extraneous noise. They don't want that extraneous piece of video being captured outside of the room. That's what we do with Director AI. You're absolutely
or how
right.
to look for a touch panel or one of these old remotes to be able to pick up and and adjust. I can't tell you how many conferences I used to do with people's legs. I have to coach them through looking for a controller remote. So that's really awesome. The only difference between the car experience is when you get in, you want to sit on the right, and when I get in, I want to sit on the left.
Oh yes. So I have that trouble every time I come over.
Yeah, exactly. I'm never going to drive in the UK because I don't trust myself. I'll be late at night and I'll be on the wrong side of the M30 and it'll just drive me insane. So Paul, thank you for taking the time to chat with us today and for giving us a little bit of a view into what's going on with culture, specifically in EMEA and with our customers. If somebody wanted to get more information from you or to reach out to you, how would you suggest they do that?
So it's really, really easy. The end stop would be going to our website. We can always help you on our website. We have chat, we have email inquiry there. Alternatively, if people want to reach out to me specifically, you can drop me an email, and it's paul.clark, Clark without an E, paul.clark@poly.com, and I will return your email.
Paul, thanks very much. I'm looking forward to the next time I see you, which will probably be ISC next year. But maybe sooner than that. Maybe we can get you over here. I can come
hopefully
over
sooner. Hopefully sooner.
Terrific. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, David.
before we go today, I wanted to make sure that everybody took a look at and listened to the people that won the contest for our poly models, like my wonderful P15 here that we were talking about. I spoke to them earlier in the week. Let's roll that and take a look. Okay, hey everybody. Well, I did want to introduce you to the winners of our thank you to Westcon for the Brixies they sent us, the beautiful models of our Sync 20 and our P15, and announced who the winners were. But here they are with me right now. We have Danny Hayasaka from Call One, and we have Jason Jacoby, one of the famous AV tweeps. Danny, tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I've been in this industry for over 23 years. I work with Call One. I'm currently the Senior Director of Marketing and Emerging Technologies, which means I get to play with all the latest and greatest tech. I get to set it up and play with it, and then we get to share these results on our YouTube channel.
Awesome. And Jason, same question for you. Tell everybody who you are and what you do.
First of all, I want Danny's job. Can I just play with tech all day long? Now, I've been in the industry about 20 years as well. I'm a project manager currently with Diversified.
That's terrific. Awesome. And Jason, you won the contest for the most entries. I think I said this on the show earlier. You entered the contest once a day for the duration. So you are our first place winner, our second place winner, and our third place winner. But since you can only win once, the fourth drawing came out with Danny's name, who entered a few times. So there you go. So my P15 and my Sync 20, and I have the real P15 that I'm using and the Sync 20 here. Jason, tell me how the build went for you. Did you get yours done, and did they work?
Yes, I did. So here's your P20. And
Sync 20.
Your Sync 20 and your P15. There we go. Too many letters and numbers there. But yes, no, the build was fun. They are, like, as I posted in one of my tweets, they are about 3/4 size of a Lego piece. So if you're used to building Legos, they're much smaller. I don't know if you can see exactly how small they are. And some of the building was interesting with the way they layered and not layered things. So it was fun though. Took me about an hour.
Really? Oh, it took me a couple of hours for each one. I actually found the Sync 20 harder than the P15, and I find both of them harder than the actual products to build. I can build a Sync 20 or a P15 easier and faster than it was with these. What about you, Danny? What was your experience?
Yeah, I opted to go with the Sync 20 first because it had less pieces. But then I was like, what in the world? This thing is a lot more challenging than I thought. I had to bust out my readers. I had to get my tweezers because I'm old, just to put things together, not fat finger it. But once you did it, it's super cool. I mean, come on, look at that. Who doesn't want this hanging out in their office? Or
exactly.
I just lost
exactly. Sometimes I reach over for it to actually try and use it for a call, and I couldn't do it. The one thing, I'm never going to criticize people that have done great promotions and are free, but the one thing I don't know if you can tell is there is a Poly logo on there, but you can't see it because it's sort of shiny. It's right there, but it doesn't work. So I'm going to have to figure out as the logo stays the same or changes or whatever, if we can get little better stickers on there and make it nice. So we all kind of, and interestingly, we were talking just before we started recording, all three of us used extra parts that weren't in the instructions to build up the support on the P15 so that it wouldn't topple over very much. It's really, really interesting how we kind of all came with that at one point. I know that when I was building it, I assumed it was going to just snap together really easily, and I'm good at following instructions. Whenever I order a piece of furniture from Amazon, it's always the look for the A, look for the B, and use process of elimination. If there are 9 Bs, we figure it out. I had to start and stop both products, at least 4 times, because when I got to like the 5th or 6th page of instructions, I said, that doesn't work. I must have messed something up, and I go back. There's no words on the instructions. It's meant to be international and language free. I don't know if you guys started and stopped the same way.
The first step on this was actually the hardest step. For get from the first layer to the second layer is you couldn't tell from the way the instructions were set up how the overlap worked. So I actually had it one way, and then I'm like, wait a minute, that doesn't fit that way. And I had to take it apart and put it back together to overlap.
Same experience.
Yeah, that was the challenge when at first I saw. I was like, this doesn't make any sense. It's like the same thing. That's when the readers come out. You're like, oh, there's layers.
Yeah, exactly. And it was definitely challenging, but I'm glad the three of us got it. I'm very, very excited that that Westcon sent these for us, and they had like 3 or 4 other things they were talking about doing in the future. I don't know if that's something they're going to do, because if it is, I'd certainly love to see them and get a hold of them. Jason, how is the P5 that you on the actual camera that you're working with?
It's working right now. It works great, much better
Awesome.
than the other camera I had. So
I'm
thank you.
glad, and I did tell you about the secret garage door in the back, right, where you lift it up and you got a USB port on it. And Danny, you've used the actual Sync 20s before, and the Sync 10. Yeah, you've used everything in the industry.
I've used all the poly solutions to include the P15, the Sync 20, the new Sync 10, all of them, the 40,
Yeah.
the 60.
Yeah,
even
so-
the new R30, Studio
Yeah,
R30.
I have a couple of R30s here as well, but no, I'm using a P15. A lot of my guests use the P15, so we definitely have both the actual pieces of equipment here, and thankfully it's a great homage to the fact that these things work really, really well. I know that, Danny, you've done a number of shootouts on your YouTube channel, and I know you have to stay unbiased because you distribute everybody, and that's wonderful. But I've never been displeased how the Poly products perform in the shootouts with other vendors. I think that's one of the main advantages of the Poly equipment, is when you actually see it, when you actually hear it. It really is leaps and bounds beyond what most of our competitors are doing.
Yeah, they're great products. We've been distributing, or not distributing, but reselling Plantronics, now Poly, for the past 35 years. So you guys have been not only a great solution, but you're also a great partner. So that's always been fantastic.
That's great. And you double dip with us, right, Danny? You watch my Poly Weekly News on Monday, but you're also watching the Tech Talk Tuesdays. So you're getting all the swag and all the gear, and you just have you must have loads and loads of storage drawers in there somewhere for all the gear and all the things that you play with.
I have so much stuff. I have that whole closet. I don't even want to open it up because this stuff comes tumbling out. And now we have our third garage full of stuff as well, because I'm constantly testing devices and comparing.
So you got to take your mobile device at some point on your YouTube channel and give people a walkthrough of what that looks like with all the things and everything else. That would be something I'd be interested in watching, just as you guys would probably be interested in seeing if I ever turned the camera that way and you look at the rest of my basement and the shop, you think this is cluttered, you should see what's going on over there. Although, the Matrix and Spider-Man, I'm going to have to change that and put something a little bit more pop culture in there. I'm thinking maybe something Top Gun. But I'll figure that out going forward. So Jason, tell everybody in the industry, how to get in touch with you, how to find out what you're doing, what's going on, what's exciting for you.
Sure. If you want to follow my craziness on Twitter, I'm at my last name Jacoby and then the word audio. So just look me up on Twitter and you can connect with me there. I'm also on LinkedIn and also onediversified.com for what we do.
Awesome, terrific. And we also catch you on AV in the AM, which this weekend is still on hiatus. It will be coming back. My buddy Chris Netto will bring bringing it back the following weekend. And since you're recording this in advance, what are you doing Labor Day weekend?
I have at least one barbecue planned. Hopefully, maybe I can get a second one in there.
There you go, barbecuing, no problem. And Danny, same question for you. How should people reach out to you, stay in touch with you, keep an eye on what you're doing?
All right, so the best way is you just follow me on LinkedIn, Danny Hayasaka. It's really simple. I don't know if you can spell it out there, but you just follow me on LinkedIn. But of course, you can follow our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Call1 Inc. And you'll be able to see all the various videos. And we do a lot of comparisons because essentially we want to test all these solutions and provide a more informed purchasing decision. So when you guys go out there and buy this stuff, you've seen it, you've heard it, and it's a better way to make a decision. Or you can follow us on callinc.com. But
awesome, that's good, and we do appreciate all those comparisons because there's no other way of really finding out how awesome some of the Poly gear is other than building it out of little bricks or actually plugging it in and listening to it as you go through it. So and while we're recording this in advance, like I said before, what would you be doing right now on Labor Day, U.S. Labor Day weekend?
Hopefully nothing. It's like we're constantly doing things, and so to get a day off, I didn't expect it, and I was like, oh man, there's a day off. Wow, how about like nothing? How about we do nothing? Hang out by the pool.
Okay, gentlemen. Congratulations on winning these. Congratulations on building them. It was a challenge. Thanks very much for joining me, and hopefully we'll have you on future shows again.
Yeah, thanks.
Great, thanks.
So that's it for this week's Poly Weekly News. On our show next week, I'll be joined by my colleague Osman Bichachi, and he'll be showing and telling all about Poly's new Edge E series phones. These are the wonderful phones we introduced a few weeks ago with all the new advanced features. He's going to be showing you what the prototypes look like and talking about the features. We're going to have a great conversation, so please join us for that one next week. But until then, for all of my colleagues here at Poly, I'm David Danto. Thanks very much for joining us, and we will see you next week.